And on drug-dealing gangs organized by criminals that other towns ran off. Belva Davis now with the second of 2 reports on the city's promise to solve quickly a problem tenants say was ignored for years. Her cover story, Hubba City.
This is the subject, and this is the enemy, and this is the plague of San Francisco.
Mayor Feinstein on July 29th, calling attention to the drug that public housing tenants have complained about for years. It is crack cocaine, also called rock or hubba, the smokable nugget of the drug that have avalanched into San Francisco's housing projects, creating scenes like this of non-stop drug dealing in the streets, and leaving housing project tenants prisoners of their own apartments, lights destroyed, stairwells converted into dangerous pits. For years, police said they didn't have the money or the people to stop the drug dealers. The dealers believed them and moved their business out into the street, openly selling to anyone who drives by. But wide-open dealing like this may be swept off the streets, according to Lieutenant Bruce Marovich of the city's new Narcotics Task Force.
Now we have the manpower and the money to target certain individuals and then to spend all our time exclusively, especially initially in the projects, and to dissuade the people from going out there and dealing.
Since operations began August 10th, the drug unit has a $900,000 budget and 117 people assigned to it. But it also has a new problem. Marovich says that in the past year, the cocaine trade has become dominated by organized gangs with insignias and territorial ambitions, gangs whose existence he disclosed in last night's report on News Center 4.
They'll chop up as much as they can control, much like a little army. They all start out initially where they hang out and where they live, and then if they get strong enough, then they'll branch out. They'll just keep going.
Last year, residents along 3rd Street marched against the crack dealers who'd staked a claim to their neighborhood. The police made some arrests, but the dealers simply moved into the Hunters Point housing projects. Jewel Green has lived on the Hunters Point Hill for 41 years and is vice president of the Tenants Association.
So I'm concerned because they had the march on 3rd Street, and they marched everybody off of 3rd Street up in the project. And we want them to march them out of the project. We had enough when we were dealing with our people. Now we're dealing with people we don't even know. We can't even identify and don't know the name.
Mrs. Green's neighbor, Barbara Plummer, has given up on the police.
A lot of the things, the drug problem here, the reason that they're here because they know the police is not going to do anything, And if you call the police, they're going to come to your door. And they're going to bypass what they see here and come to your door. And this is fingering you as what they call a snitch.
That's not going to happen. Problem with this, the way we're doing it now. We don't go to anybody's store. If they phone the hotline, 553-1600, nobody comes to your door.
Lieutenant Marovich says that calls to 911 always bring a squad car. That's the law. But new care has been taken to preserve anonymity on the drug hotline. District stations, he says, know about scenes like this, but it's up to the new plainclothes task force to bust them. During the 2-hour stakeout, when these hidden camera pictures of drug dealings were made, only one police officer interrupted the busy scene on Connecticut Street. Her car never stopped, leaving too quickly to be taped. The dealing never stopped either.
Well, I hope you're not going to see us out there at all. The only time you're going to see us is when we make an arrest. We'll just keep pecking away at the bottom and work our way up. And so we'll get the little dealers on the street, and then what you do is you take a little dealer into a bigger dealer, into a bigger dealer. Let the little mice get off the ship and just have the big rats on it, so that's the people you want to deal with.
In a recent letter to the supervisors, the mayor brags of early successes. 141 arrests in the first 14 days, capture of a serial robber with a big cocaine habit, confiscation of a full ounce of crack and $26,000 in cash. Other tactics do not involve police. At Plaza East, a modest federal grant will help block entries and add security officers to dealer-proof the project. But Feinstein says HUD budgets are too tight now to be much help. HUD's General Counsel, Michael Dorsey, says cities should not look to Washington to solve what he admits is a nationwide problem.
We define it as a national problem because it occurs all over the country. but it's really a local problem and has to be dealt with at the local level. It's critical to have tenant involvement. If the tenants aren't participating and aren't working with the management and with the local law enforcement officials, nothing will happen.
But that part is harder. That's because most residents are afraid of the drug dealers. But here at Plaza East, there have been community cleanups and more children are playing out of doors. But the gangs are still here. One day recently, the mayor challenged them on their own ground.
They stake out a territory, and they kind of strut around, and I went over to them. I asked them if they'd like to join us in our cleanup effort. They indicated they would not like to join us. And I said, you know, you're either going to behave or you're going to get arrested. Just know that. And they looked at me and didn't say anything and walked away. In 2 months, I want to see a cleaned up situation. I want to see the dealers out. I want to see the kids out playing, clean projects, some tenant organizations, and power to the good people.
The commitment so far, 1 year's worth of police and money. 1 year to convince these young men that their profitable line of work is the wrong line of work. Belva Davis, News Center 4, San Francisco.